The mindset when I'm even on the rock and like things are happening, it's so flow statey that it's really, you're just in the moment. When I grab a hold, I can feel individual crystals on my fingers. When I like step up on a hold, I can feel the hold through my shoes. And I think that that's probably one of the reasons that I do it, because it's so specific and you're so in that moment. Hi, I'm Karsten Delap, and I've been climbing 20 years. I work as a IFMGA mountain guide, and I'm also a professional athlete, and I also do a bunch of rescue stuff. A lot of that's volunteer, some of it's paid, and as well as teach a bunch of rescue. So I got interested in climbing. I guess the first time I went climbing was actually in the Boy Scouts when I was younger. If you're familiar with the Boy Scouts, the Philmont Camp, the Scout Ranch out in New Mexico. It was the first time I ever went rock climbing, like on a rope. I don't believe they even had shoes for us. I think we just climbed in our boots, so who knows how hard it was. But didn't really get interested in climbing until maybe, more right in college, somewhere right around that time. But, did a lot of hiking and stuff as a kid, and always enjoyed the mountains and just kind of wanted to pursue something that, was a bit more challenging, more technical. Soloing something that all climbers do, and the easiest one to explain is bouldering. Some people boulder and they put crash pads below them to protect themselves, but they're still free soloing. They hit the ground every time. In fact, I try not to boulder much anymore. As I'm getting older, hitting the ground, which the impact on my knees starts to not be that much fun. I think I started really considering soloing when I started alpine climbing more. Mainly because of speed, possibly, but also just realizing that, third class terrain, just because it's third class and not fifth class, that still doesn't mean you can fall. And so you're soloing. So what is free soloing? Well, that's when you walk up a set of stairs without being on a rope. That's free soloing. So, how steep can those stairs be, or how steep can that ladder be, or how tough can that pitch of rock climbing be? I think that's where, where you decide free soloing starts is kind of, that's up to you.
Why you do it regularly now?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do in the mountains is really to move through tons and tons of terrain really, really quickly. I like climbing hard. I like pushing myself, but I also like moving through tons of terrain really quickly. Mountain running's fun. And of course, running in the mountains just starts to translate to ridge lines, which starts to translate to steeper pitches, in which case now we're free soloing, or probably what most people define as free soloing. So I think, why free solo? It is just such a pure, fast way to move through the mountains. It's very flow statey, so it just really gets you into a mindset of you're just in the moment and feeling the mountain, and it's just you and the mountain. There's nothing else out there. So I think that free soloing is very meditative, and that's why I choose to engage in the activity. There's always a bit of nervousness knowing that I'm going to climb something without a rope, but if you can't figure out the ability to compartmentalize that, then I think that's where you start to know, you shouldn't probably be on that specific pitch or that specific climb. So, the moments leading up, I start to work into this mindset of just compartmentalizing. Like everybody's probably wanting to know what it's like. Like, do you think about falling? And it's like, well, no, because there's no option. I actually think about falling a lot when I'm on a rope. Climbing in North Carolina, things are pretty run out. So there's a lot of times that I'm like thinking about falling. In fact, it's more scary on a rope, but there is no reason to think about falling when you're free soloing. In fact, if you're thinking about falling when you're free soloing, you probably shouldn't be free soloing. That's just, that's a personal opinion, but I do not think about falling when I'm free soloing. I am totally focused on the movement, and I think that that's probably one of the reasons that I do it, because it's so specific and you're so in that moment. Why do people like Looking Glass? I can tell you why I like Looking Glass. I think just its position, especially like the nose is really amazing, the position. The climbing on the nose actually isn't as interesting to me as maybe stuff, on the north face or the south face, as far as intricacy of movement or different movement throughout the pitches. But the nose just provides this thing, you're literally climbing the prow or the nose of Looking Glass, and you get the whole Blue Ridge out there. I think there's one building that you can actually see from the nose, which would be the Pisgah Inn, which is way off. It's just really, there's a tower that you can kind of see up on Mount Pisgah that kind of gives it away. But for the most part, it's like just vastness. In the fall, sometimes it's just a sea of all these, beautiful leaves and colors, and it's really cool just to be out there. And of course, from a guiding perspective, to be able to take people and, give them some sort of experience in this, sea of the Blue Ridge, that's pretty amazing.
How does your thoughts change, or do they change as you approach the top?
Yeah, so I actually have this interesting thing that I have to be a little careful of. So there's cruxes in climbs, and in the video of me climbing the nose, there's actually two movements that I always think about before I climb the climb. One is on the second pitch crux. It's moving into the dike. There's this a band of quartz that kind of runs up, and it created this dike, and to get into it, there's a little bit of, it's 5/8. There's an undercling you hit and step up on some feet that are a little bit polished. And so I think about that crux, and the next crux is actually leaving the second pitch, going onto the third pitch, the start of the third pitch. The feet are they're small, smeary, slick holds. And so I really think about that crux a lot. That's actually the bigger crux for me, because the handholds, there's no handholds. You're just like on a couple slopers, and you're pulling down on these slopers, and your feet can't slip. And so my problem with this is, once I get through these moves, you could start to think, oh, it's over. But literally, that is just the first moves off the third pitch once I get through both these cruxes. And so I have had this issue in longer climbs, especially that I solo, of like thinking like, okay, that was good, that was awesome. But it's like, no, that's not the thought process. The thought process is stay in the moment, continue the movement. Because just because it's 5/7 or 5/6 or whatever it is less now that I'm soloing, doesn't mean that I can just like come out of the headspace and just, whatever up the climb. Like, you still need to be super focused and, stay in the moment with the movement.
Okay, follow-up question is, if someone asked you for advice on getting into free soloing, what would you tell them?
Yeah, if somebody asked me for advice getting into free soloing, I think I would give them the advice of, I mean, you need to start well within in the realm of what you're doing. You're probably already free soloing. I mean, most people walk down a sidewalk without a rope. Technically, that's free soloing. You know, so you would want to start many grades below what you're comfortable climbing, what you don't fall on. You know, the route that you see that I climbed out there, I mean, I've climbed it well over 200 times, and I have never taken a fall on that route, not once. So in, you know, I guess 15 years maybe that I've been climbing that route, I have never ever fallen on that route. And so that's the kind of statistic I'm looking for. And so, you know, if I start giving people advice on free soloing, they need to be a very good climber. Their movement ability needs to be, you know, very secure in the terrain that they're going to start removing the rope. And that's really easy to do, because we can start to do that with a rope, and we can start to see, like, this is not hard for me at all. There is literally no chance of me falling. And so that's where we could start to see that. And, you know, most climbers, I think, are already free soloing. You got a free solo to your first trad piece. You know, rarely do we have the ability to put some sort of piece of gear in on a trad route so that we're not soloing right off the ground. It's almost impossible, right? So, yeah, I think that, you know, the advice is obviously take it very slow and have a very high movement standard before we even start into that thought process.
you.